There's a lot of lingo or slang words in bodybuilding, and some of them you hear, raise your eyebrows to, and think, what the does that mean? The pump, I feel flat, peri-workout nutrition. Is that even English? In today's video, we will be the bodybuilder's translator. It's like a really budget Google translator. So let's get cracking. Hello and welcome to the video. My name is Jack. I'm an online coach and apparently now a translator. So without further ado, the first phrase to translate is, I feel flat, bro. So flat means not having enough kind of carbohydrates in the muscle. And you can often look very kind of stringy or look very depleted. If you ever wake up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror and think, why am I so small? That would be running flat. You haven't had any food, you haven't had any water yet, you've just woken up. But you can often get this look when you are in a cut or in a fat loss phase too. That's basically because you don't have any kind of carbohydrates in your system, you don't have any muscle glycogen because you are cutting, you have limited food. So when you carb up, and you would have kind of muscle glycogen in place, and you will look significantly better. But basically the feeling of feeling a little bit depleted, feeling a little bit stringy would be what someone would determine as being flat. So yeah, flat. Next up, peri-workout nutrition. Now to be fair, every time I hear someone say this phrase, I just want to repeatedly punch them in the throat. But anyway, what does it mean? Peri actually just simply means around. That's what peri means. For instance, pericardial is around the heart. Also, periaortic lymph nodes would be the lymph nodes around the aorta. So yeah, from that you can say peri-workout nutrition would be nutrition around a workout. So basically this would be your pre, sometimes intra, but pre and post-workout meals. Essentially the timing around the training window. Another one, that's DJ Khaled. Another one. Translated. Next up, the pump. Essentially, the pump is your muscle getting very tight to the skin. Now, this typically occurs in two things. Number one, high rep work, and number two, in smaller muscle groups. You will rarely get a huge pump from bigger muscle groups. This tends to be disruption. This tends to be kind of muscular fatigue. So if you ever touch your kind of muscle, like for example, you do RDLs, and you kind of touch your hamstring, they're not really pumped, they're more kind of weak. Whereas as a bicep curl in like the 15 to 20 rep range, that feels like really tight to the skin. So that is the pump. So DJ Khaled, another one. Done. Next up, the V-taper. This is referring to the shoulder to waist ratio. The perfect physique is often referred to as an X frame. Now, the V-taper would be the top half of that V. And then the bottom half would be like an upside down V. But having a wide top line and having a very small waist would kind of resemble a V. It's kind of like a triangle, right? So that is the V-taper. So that's another one. Another ticked off. Next up, bro science. Often considered the opposite of evidence-based training. However, a lot of the ideology and the methodology is fairly similar to evidence-based practice. There's often a rift between bro science and evidence-based, or the evidence-based community, but often the rift is a thing of wording. So basically someone like the bro science people would word something in a way that the evidence-based people would disagree with, and vice versa. But the ideology and the methodology is actually very similar. So bro science would be considered as someone who takes a lot of anecdotal experience. So like, it works for me, it'll work for you, etc. But he can't really explain why. He can't really explain why this is happening. The evidence-based dude can probably explain why this is happening, but probably can't apply it as well as the person who is actually doing it. And both together would form the perfect lifter, the perfect bodybuilder, because he can explain why, but he can also apply. Kind of rhymes. I'll stick with it. So that's another one. Another one. Next up, refeeds. A refeed day is a day of, or a couple of days of increased carbohydrates. Now the aim is to achieve two things. Number one, to fill out. Now we spoke earlier on in the vlog regarding feeling flat. Now a refeed will actually counter that. So we would increase carbohydrates for a couple of days and feel fuller. Number 2, to increase training performance. Typically a refeed is performed in a cut. In a cut, training performance is fairly poor. So to increase this, we just simply add in carbohydrates for a couple of days. Now there is technically a third, which is basically your psyche. If you're running flat, you don't have any pump because you don't have any muscle glycogen, you are very, very hungry, and your training performance is pretty crappy, a refeed is a very good psychological boost. Refeeds are typically performed at maintenance. So what we do, especially in a fat loss phase, we're in a deficit, we basically increase our calories to maintenance, and that would be in the form of carbohydrates. So let's just say, for example, on a normal day, you're eating like 175 grams of carbohydrates. On a refeed day, it could be like 300 plus. You're just increasing carbohydrates. Now the literature is stating basically 1 day is okay. We typically only do refeeds for 1 day. However, literature is basically stating that 1 isn't doing that much. That's just a psychological boost. If you want kind of to feel a little bit fuller, if you want training performance to kind of increase, a couple of days worth of refeeds is probably better. And that is your bodybuilding translator complete. If there's any I've missed or you want me to go through, leave a comment down below and I might do another one of these. There's many phrases in the fitness industry and I'm sure I've missed a few, but there's many phrases in the fitness industry that people are like, the hell does that mean? But until next time, peace.